Thank you, Jack. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here. I'm flattered that you'd think of me in connection with this wonderful get-together. I think it's wonderful when people meet and pick each other's brains and try to find a better way to do the job. It's fun to be with you at this time of the day, too, Jack. I've been putting on breakfast meetings for our own little company, and I've been looking at more empty seats than a tailor. And to be here at noontime I thought I was getting a big hand in Cincinnati the other morning. It was just some guy trying to get some ketchup out of a bottle. He was having a big... And I've been on the wagon. I've been on the wagon for about 5 years, and I've lost all my friends. And I don't have any fun anymore, but to follow these all-night cocktail parties is almost too much to take. So thank you, Jack, for those kind words. And since meeting with you, Jack, the last time, I think I was with the mining then, and we formed a new company, and like the card says, we were only a year and a half old. We're a non-profit organization. We don't mean to be. We just are, that's all. You're probably looking at the only vice president in America who still makes out his income tax using the short form, but we had a contest. One of our salesmen won a trip to Bermuda. He's still down there trying to win a trip back, but we tried this recruiting, Jack, like you did. We tried these tests where you bring the new salesman in, and they try to put a square peg in a round hole. We found a guy who could do it. He's now our president and doing a mighty fine job. But the gals won't mind. I don't have any stories I wouldn't tell to my wife, a 20-year-old daughter, because my wife comes home from bridge party with stories I wouldn't even dare to tell you here this morning. But I did hear a cute story, and I don't think the gals... I hope the gals won't listen. We tried this testing that Jack was talking about in recruiting, and we used the Minnesota multiphasic test for our new salesman. And in the test, there's a 45-word vocabulary section. There's supposed to be some connection between vocabulary and success. And one of the words in the test is alabaster, A-L-A-B-A-S-T-E-R. And a kid from Illinois said it was an illegitimate Mohammedan. So thank you for the kind words. You know, a lot of speakers open a program like this, and I found out some time ago, you can relax, I found out some time ago, you can't change anybody's way of life or politics, ideas on anything in a half an hour. I'm not going to try. But you know, we have a temptation to say, a funny thing happened to me on the way to the meeting today. Well, friends, I've been going to meetings for 25 years, and nothing funny ever happened to me on the way to a meeting. Until today. I heard a cute story. I live right around the corner in St. Paul from a little Catholic church, a little Roman Catholic church, the Church of the Little Flower. And the priest there, Father Gibbs, is a very dear friend of mine, and when I'm leaving on an early morning trip, if he's up walking and reading, we swap a couple of stories. We're good friends. He loves to tell a story, and he loves to hear one, and he knows I'm an Episcopalian. I think he's the one that said that's one of us who flunk Latin. I don't know, Jack. I think he's the guy. He said that's a Methodist who makes more than $5,000 a year. But he told me a cute story. He said one of his parishioners came to visit him last year during Lent, and they were reviewing the Ten Commandments, and they came to thou shalt not steal. And Clancy said, well, he said, Father, he said, you know, I work in a lumber yard, and he said, occasionally. He said, not very often, he said, but occasionally. He said, I take a little stick of wood home. He said, Father, they got a lot of it there. They never miss it. And Father Gibbs said, Clancy, did you ever make a retreat? He said, no, Father, but if you've got the plans, I've got the lumber. Say, you've been sitting down. Let's have a little fun now. You've been sitting down for a long time. I want the men in the audience to stand up with me. Come on. Stand up. I want you to give me the Boy Scout salute. Come on. Let's have some fun. Only got a half an hour. Give me the Boy Scout salute, and I want you to repeat after me. I hereby promise that for the next few minutes, I will forget that I am a $75,000 a year executive, and I'm a salesman again, making calls, telling my story, getting business. And I'm glad I came. I'm glad I'm here. And I owe it all. That wonderful thing. That thing that's strictly American. No other country in the world has it. Thank the Lord for it. I'm glad we got it. It'd be hell without it. The expense account. Thank you. When Jack and I get together, we talk about something we're doing in our little plant. We're still doing it, Jack. We have a little expression, we say, what's old? Instead of what's new, because we found if we stick pretty close to that old marketing concept that says, like you've been saying here this morning, you got to find out what people want and then make it real easy for them to get it. I mean, real easy for them to get it. You can't go too far wrong. We have a little black and white card on our conference table, and it brings us back to life when we get all jazzed up. And it simply says, are we easy to do business with? We have production, financial problems. We got a treasurer, Dak, doesn't care what he does with his money, as long as he doesn't spend it. Somebody said he went to Florida this winter, our treasurer. He went down for vacation. He went to the dog races. He was betting the rabbit to show. Are we easy to buy from? And you know, just about everything that's happened in our economy in the last half century has emphasized this idea. I mean, they always had food, but now they give you convenient parking and lighting and music and play areas for the kids and babysitters and packaging that seems to grab you when you go by and says, take me home with you. They make things easy to get. And how about the fabulous credit plans? They say, use it now, enjoy it now, pay for it later. It's easier. It's easier. Have you had any direct mail lately? They say, tear off the top of your neighborhood dealer and send the bum in now. Don't delay. The contest closes at midnight. Get him in. There's a bonus for your prompt decision. Send no money. Forget the postage. Just put a little X here where it says bill me. Cost you $1,800 before you get through, but we'll take care of the postage. So maybe the $64,000 question in the few minutes we have together, maybe the $64,000 question we ask ourselves is, are we easy to do business with? And gee, I've worked with tall men and short men, and in the last 25 years of working with salesmen around the country, and that's my job, listening to them and watching them. I've worked with tall men and short men and fat men and skinny men and fast talkers and slow talkers and medium talkers. I know men who are trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. They start every day at 7 a.m. They never quit before 7 at night, and they don't drink or smoke or go out with the girls. But if a customer says your price is too high, or I'll see you in 90 days, or I'm satisfied with my present source of supply, rigor mortis sets in. I know other salesmen who are superstitious. They won't work any week that's got a Friday in it. We got a few of those guys, too. But I'm firmly convinced that the good ones, and they seem to get a little better each day or each time you work with them, the good ones seem to have something that makes them easy to buy from. I'd like to kick it around. I've been looking for a word that best describes your relationship with your customer. I mean the manufacturer to the distributor, to the wholesaler, to the dealer. I think of the word sell. It's the first word I think of, but I'm not so sure that this is the word that best describes the relationship we talk about when we get together and talk about your job and mine. I don't know, sometimes too often the word sell implies that one person is going to get the better of another person. It's almost like saying in this corner at 145 pounds from Passaic, New Jersey, wearing purple trunks, we got the salesman in this corner, his adversary. Go to it. Too many times the word sell implies conflict, doesn't it? Or combat. Maybe it's because I started out in the early 30s selling vacuum cleaners house to house when I was too young to go to work and too old to be a juvenile delinquent. And we used to have breakfast meetings and march around the table singing Rise Ye Men of Hoover. And then when we'd leave the meeting, the door would be open and the boss would hit us across the fanny with a copy of the morning paper, and he'd go out and say, get out there and get him, buddy. Go out and sell. You can do it. Go ahead. Sell, sell, sell. Then he'd go back to bed. I don't know, there's something about the word sell. You get a bunch of us around the coffee table and we say, I sold him a gross, that creep. Or I've been working on him, I finally got him, buddy. Oh, I got him. This conflict and combat. Isn't it the truth, Sal? We throw around a lot of inspirational selling slogans like, plan your work and work your friends. If at first you don't succeed, drop dead. My boss used to have one on his wall that says, put your ear to the ground, your nose to the grindstone, and your shoulder to the wheel. I wonder if you ever tried to call on a customer in that position. You can't do it. Sell, sell, sell! I'm not so sure. Oh, now, what's the other word we kick around? Makes a good speech. The word serve. Good word. I'm sure we all agree that we succeed according to how much of ourselves we give away in all our interpersonal relationships. I'm sure we agree that if a salesman can forget his commission and think only of serving the customer, the world is his oyster. But wait a minute. I served them till hell wouldn't have it. Did everything but help them deliver their babies up in my territory, and then some dude would come along with the clergyman's discount and I'd be dead. What happened? Is serve the only word? I love Dr. Werney. This is a very practical guy. It's all right to love him, but watch him. Is the word serve? I'm not so sure. Is it a straight sell relationship? I'm not so sure. Here's one we're kicking around just for a few minutes with you. We're trying it. We think it's more realistic and more practical. We think the relationship is more like a swap relationship. See what you think. When we were kids, before we had money to buy with, we swapped a torn kite for a rusty jackknife. Rogers Hornsby bat for a Lou Gehrig bat. And the only time in the swap relationship that the thing gets loused up is when one party or the other fails to live up to his part of the bargain. Look, selling can be a one-way street. Loving can be a one-way street. Being nice to our competitors can be a one-way street. Swap implies two-way street. It's practical. It's realistic. It's saying, I will do this, and you'll do this, and together we will make music. Oh, the insurance people do it, and they're pros. You can't stay in that business if you're not a pro. They say, Mr. Gove, if you get hit by a truck, Mrs. Gove gets this. If you get hit by a herd of buffalo, Mrs. Gove gets this. If a buffalo is driving the car at the time, double indemnity. Now, if you outsmart us and live to be 65, you get this. All you got to do is deposit this amount each month. We'll swap you. We're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and together we got a program. We've been setting up audiovisual dealers around the country with what we think, Jack, is a realistic approach. We've been swapping. We say this, Mr. Dealer, we'll give you a quality line backed by people you can trust. When we call on you, we'll tell you the truth, even though it hurts at times. We'll bleed with you when you got problems. We'll not only sell you the stuff, but we'll put on sales meetings for your men, and we'll do everything we can to help you sell it. That's what we're going to do. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to tell us the truth when we call on you. We want you to have respect for us and our policies. We want you to help us grow. So we'll do this, and you'll do this, and together we'll make music. This is a 3-minute egg timer to you and me. This is swapping material to a real salesman. I wish he was here. His name is Charlie Montgomery. He's from Cleveland, Tennessee. He has a pharmaceutical territory for Lincoln in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I wish he was here to tell the story. He says, my name is Charlie Montgomery. He says, I was with the Lincoln Pharmaceutical Company. He says, we got some drugs we don't even have a disease for yet. He said, we're coming along. He said, next year we're coming out with a new wonder drug. He said, you got to be in perfect health to take it. He said, this is not... And he says, I got a tough job, he said, but I try to swap. He said, I call in the doctors. I got to tell them my story. And I got to compete for their time. They go from the hospital to the office to the house call. They only in the office a few minutes a day. I got to catch them and tell my story. I got to compete with the big boys, Eli Lilly and Abbott and Upjohn and Squibb and the rest. So I walk in, I say, Doctor, this is a 3-minute egg timer. I took all the things I was going to tell you about, and I broke them down into a 3-minute story. Mr. Doctor, when the sand gets to the bottom, I'm gone. And we said, for heaven's sakes, Charlie, you can't give your talk in 3 minutes, can you? He said, I can, providing I do all the talking. He says, if the doctor interrupts, I turns it right back again. And he says, if the phone rings, he says, that turns it back. He ain't going to be treating his patients on my time. What's he saying? He's saying, I'm considerate of him. This ain't enough. I want him to be considerate of me. Here we go. Let's swap. Let's swap. Zillions of words have been written about good listening. They tell us, the social intellectuals tell us, if you listen to another person with understanding, and there are techniques for listening, you're supposed to nod, and then you're supposed to say, is that so? And then you're supposed to say, tell me more. Then you're supposed to say, well, that never occurred to me. Could you elaborate on that, please? I know guys, they're the world's greatest listeners, but they don't write enough business to flag a bread truck, see? Why? They do all the listening, and by the time it comes for them to tell their story, school is out, the bars are closed, the whistle blows, dead. Swap. I'll listen to you, mister, because the only way I can find out how you feel, act, and think is to listen. The only way I can build my story is to get yours. Then I can be specific. And I'll agree that listening can be more persuasive than anything that I can say. And the good Lord gave us 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Maybe we shouldn't try to outsmart nature, but I'm going to listen to you, buddy. But you're going to listen to me, too. Because I got a story to tell. I'll swap you. Here's what we say to him. We say, Mr. Customer, I'd like the time that it would take to ask you a couple of questions. I want to get your opinion on a new idea, but then I want you to ask me some questions because I believe I have some ideas that will help you. I'll swap you. Love the story we used to tell about the fellow selling elephants, and he ran into a prospective client, and he said, I can get you an elephant for $100. The guy said, I couldn't use it. So I said, what are you talking about? He said, that's a good price, $100 for an elephant. He said, we overbought. He said, we have an inventory problem. He says, get yourself an elephant. The guy said, I couldn't use it. I got a small place. I got a small living room and a small dining room and a small kitchen. He said, thanks for listing me with your group of selective clientele. He said, but I can't use the elephant. The fellow said, you could buy it just for laughs. He said, put cold water in the elephant's trunk, and then in the middle of the summer, take the kids out in the backyard and squirt them. The guy said, I ain't got no backyard, and I ain't got no kids. The guy said, you got to admit, that's a hell of a good price, $100 for an elephant. The guy said, I couldn't use it. The salesman said, look, you're a good listener. And I'll tell you what I'll do. If you keep it under your hat, I think I can get you 2 of them for $150. The guy said, now you're talking, buddy. You might say, what kind of a relationship is this we're talking about that says, I'll do this if you do this. That is what we're talking about. We're saying, aren't we, I'll do this and you'll do this, you see? There's a real difference there. And together we'll make progress and grow. We talk a lot about the gift of reassurance. We don't feel that our only job is to get new people to buy from us. And this is almost axiomatic. Our big job, we think, is to get the people who are buying from us to continue to buy from us. So we pass on to them what we think is good swapping material, the gift of reassurance. We don't get a stamp machine that we pay $16 for, that we don't write a letter and tell people we got a new stamp machine. We don't go to a sales meeting, attend a clinic, take a course, hire a new man, paint the back room. And we don't tell people we're doing it. They want to know. They want to know we're growing because they feel that if we're their customers, we just got to grow with them. We needed a Hammond spinet organ 2 Christmases ago like you need an extra python. That's if you've already got one python. But I talked to this fellow and I said, I do a lot of traveling, and a friend of mine has got one, and he plays a few chords, and he has a lot of fun with it, and he takes lessons, and he comes home and relaxes, plays this organ. This dealer salesman said, we'd be delighted to serve you. And I said, I got a little problem. I got a spinet piano, and I don't need both. Will you take it and he trade? He said, no, we have a policy against it. I said, will you take it in and sell it for me? He said, we can't do that either. And I said, then how in the hell can I buy one of these? He said, put an ad in the paper, sell your piano, come in, we'd be delighted to serve you. This guy couldn't sell a burlesque show to a lumber camp, not this fellow right here. I went to another fellow, I don't even think he ever took a course in his life, Jack. Never reads books, doesn't attend clinics. Get the difference. Swap. Get the difference. I walk in this fellow and I say, I'm queer for one of these things, but you got to sell it to me, buddy. He said, do you play the organ? I said, I can play a few chords. He said, we got one hooked up. Play the organ. I said, I got a little problem. He said, play the organ. I said, I got a little problem. He said, will you play the organ and stop your worrying? I said, wait a minute. I got a problem. I got a piano. I don't need both. I understand you don't take them in trade. And I'll be damned if I'm going to spend a weekend at home having people track in and out of my house. If it's this tough, I don't want it. Oh, he said, it ain't tough at all. He said, all you got to do is say you want it. That's the only decision you got to make. You got to say you want it. And that's a big decision to make. These things cost $1,300. But that's the only one you got to make. He said, we'll take care of all the details. He said, I got a guy, comes in, picks up your piano, takes it to the warehouse. He sells it for us. There's no problem at all. He said, all you got to do is sign this little thing here. And he said, press hard. There's 4 copies, he said. No strain at all. The gift of reassurance. Remember that story they used to tell about the farmer getting married? I'll swap you. He's moving away from the wedding, new bride by his side. And the horse kicked up, and the farmer said, that's once. Still moving away from the wedding, new bride by his side, and the horse kicked again. The farmer said, that's twice. Still moving away from the wedding, new bride by his side, and the horse kicked again. The farmer said, that's 3 times. He took a gun out of his pocket, and he shot the horse dead. And his new bride said, well, you cruel, sadistic fiend. She said, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. She said, I'm glad I found you out. On this, our wedding day, you dirty dog. The farmer said, that's once. Oh, hell of a thing. That was terrible. I'll swap you. Go back to Dr. Wernie's. Go back to Dr. Wernie's presentation. It's a swap, isn't it? You're fair, you tell the truth, you do your job, but this isn't enough. They got to do theirs, too. Together you can solve every problem. Together you can solve every problem. Remember the company sent a bill, one-way street. Look at the difference. Company sent a statement to a customer, said, your bill is now a year old. Fellow wrote back, happy birthday. One way. Don't you like it better when it's 2-way? Guy writes and said, we have been carrying you for 12 months. We don't even know you, and that's 3 months longer than your mother carried you. Now, this isn't the important thing. We're not worried about this bill. We are worried because you haven't been in buying from us. Come on in and see some of the new things we've got and the new ideas we've got and the new equipment. See how we've grown. Then together we'll work out some arrangements to take care of that other bill. Let's start fresh. We'll swap you. I just got back from Detroit. This ought to hit you. They're still hollering down there. First 6 months of last year, they did a lot of bleeding. Everybody in the industry did. They blamed it on a lot of things, overproduction, and they yelled and hollered. But I think, and so do you, one of the reasons why they were bleeding is because they pushed people around, and people don't like to be pushed around. Have you called on a dealer lately? Not out in the Pacific Northwest here, but in some areas. Guy walks in, they have terrific techniques. It's incredible. You wouldn't believe why people got to the point of where they didn't even want to go in. Guy walks in, salesman says, tell me about your car. Fellow lies. He said, a fellow had this before me, was a tired clergyman. He only used the car once a week. It was all downhill. Used to take the plugs and points out once a week and clean them by hand with Monogram Kleenex. He says, it's a terrific car. Salesman says, what kind of a car is it? Guy says, a 1933 Essex. Fellow says, yeah, but what color? He says, burnt orange. Salesman says, we're in luck. Guy said, what do you mean we're in luck? He said, we're in luck because just yesterday there was a guy looking for a 1933 burnt orange Essex. And because we move it right out, we're in a beautiful position to deal with you today, providing. The guy says, providing what? He says, providing we can get through to the boss. He's tough. He eats his young. He read Uncle Tom's Cabin 3 times. He still thinks Simon Legree was the hero. Most bosses go fishing, playing golf in the summer. Not my boss. He goes to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina and teaches the Marines how to fight dirty. But I'm sure that if we work together... Does it have to be that way? I know swappers in this business that weren't bleeding the first 6 months. I know a guy in Chillicothe, Ohio, Hank Kindler, and here's what he says to him. Cross my heart and hope to die. He says this to him, mister, it might cost you $100 more to do business with me than it costs to do business with anybody else in town. $100 more. But come on out back. I want to show you what you're going to get for it. Then he shows him all his inventory and his new equipment, and then he top it all off. He takes him over to his service manager, and service manager looks up at the prospect with his baby blue eyes and says, and when you bring your car in here, we treat it just like it's our own. We'll swap you. I got a client in Needham, Menasha, Wisconsin. Wonderful swappers. Get this. They sell fine paper. I made 77 calls with their salesman over a period of time last summer, and not once did the salesman mention paper. He passed on ideas to show the printer how to do a better job. Sure, if the printer did a better job, he sold more printing. If he sold more printing, he used more paper. If he used more paper, he bought more paper from his merchant. If he bought more paper from his merchant, the merchant bought more paper from Gilbert, but it started way back here with, I have a gift for you with Minnesota Mining, 15 years. Big thing I learned with them. We used to open every interview with the words, my name is Bill Gove with Minnesota Mining. We got some ideas. They're ideas we think will help you. We want to pass them on to you. We'll swap you. The gift of experience. What have we said? We've said that maybe sell alone isn't the word we're thinking about. Maybe serve isn't the word we're thinking about. Maybe the word is swap. What are we saying? Saying, Mr. Customer, we'll be considerate of you. We'll give you the gift of our attention, our experience. We'll reassure you from time to time. The reason I pick out CARE, consideration, attention, reassurance, and experience. It just so happens they spell care. This is a very mature emotion, isn't it? The same one that makes us successful. If we are successful in the parent-child relationship, in the husband-wife relationship, in the citizen-community relationship, in the boss-subordinate relationship, in the seller-buyer relationship, what we're saying then is, I'll care for you, but this is not enough. In our relationship, Mr. Customer, you must care enough for us to want us to grow too. I'll do this, and you'll do this. It has to start with us, with our giving, and we're all at our best when we give. Here's what the psychologists say. Here's what people who deal with human behavior say. Here's how they check out this concept. They say we're at our best when we give, and when we give, we feel better, and when we feel better, our attitude improves, and when our attitude improves, we sell more, and when we sell more, we make more money, and when we make more money, we feel better. What happens in the swap relationship? We give, we feel better. He gives, he feels better. We both feel better. Our attitude improves. We do more business together. Practical? Our minister summed it up for us. We just finished a church drive at home, and the lead gift we got from one of our parishioners was very substantial, and when he gave us this gift, or we reported this gift at a vestry meeting, somebody says, no wonder he gives, he's got it. And our little minister said, I wonder if he gives because he's got it, or he's got it because he gives. Say a couple of extra prayers tonight. Pray that you'll have the best and happiest and healthiest year you ever had, and say a prayer for me.